Just wanted to say good morning to everyone, if it's morning for you or afternoon. For me, it's a little after midnight, and that's okay. I'm up. I figured, well, make this video. First thing is, I don't generally like appearing in front of a camera with my face, and it's not because I'm shy. I'm not at all. Um, but I have issues of I am almost completely blind. And that might seem strange. How can you be blind and still do crafts? Still do, yes, I do my own nails. I don't go to a salon and have them done. What it is I can see, but sometimes I don't already focus. Part of my blindness is called cortical blindness, and there's another list. And I see some things, bright colors I can see. Colors that are in the like fall colors, I have a hard time seeing when they're darker, like the browns and tans. I have a really hard time seeing that that is brown and tan. To me, it looks like no color. It's really strange. But I wanted to talk about that, and then as many of you are getting into the paper piecing, this is what I wanted to talk about. So I will pause the video so I can switch it so you can see what I'm referring to. And through the time lapse of video, it will switch. And we get to resume. Hopefully that didn't mess up the video. So this is what I wanted to get to, as I explained in a previous video. Most of the paper piecing I do is done using regular freezer paper. What I do is cut a big piece off, and if you take a regular piece of paper, which is 8.5 by 11, if you put the paper big enough, you could actually get 2 of these 8.5 by 11 sheets off of one piece of paper, one paper. And I just fold it in half the best I can. It's most of the time not straight, because I can't see very well. Excuse me, and that's okay too. So then you have 2. And I generally make sure that I fold the shiny side in, because if you put that shiny side out, it's a lot more slick. So if you put the paper side out, it doesn't seem to move so much. Then what I do, see if I can, hopefully you can still see what I'm doing. I just take my ruler. It's just my normal ruler I use for quilting. On the ruler it has 8.5 by 11, which is the normal size of a piece of paper. You could do this one of 2 ways. You can put your piece of paper on here, draw it out, but I found that sometimes when you're using your pen or whatever, it seems to, the paper you're using seems to move. So I found that using a ruler and just holding it down is better. So you just put your ruler down. I put the crease. I use my crease as basically a straight edge. So your paper is 8.5 wide, 8.5 by 11.5 long. So this is your short side. So this is the side you're going to measure 8.5. So you just take your ruler to 8.5. Or you can use the other ways. You can use the lines on the cutting mat. If you have one that has lines, like mine has lines and numbers and all kinds of stuff, you can line it up if that's easier for you. And what I do to hold my paper down is I just put something heavy on it to hold it down on one side. And I just use this little guy. is actually a crystal swan. And it works great as a paperweight, even though that's not what it is. And I just put him right there, and he's got string on him. Doesn't surprise me. Crafting room with no string. I don't think so. Okay, so I just line it up here. Here's 8.5. And usually I use a red marker, and it's one of the little ones. I have the big fat ones too, but this one is more on the lines of a pen. It's real skinny on top. See if I can see. It's real skinny on top, so it's more like a pencil. I can use a pencil, but the bright red or green I can see, and then you just mark it straight up. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then I turn it, into my swan, turn it. Remember, this side we don't need to measure because this is the side, the straighted side. So then you go, put your little weight, or you don't have to have one. I just like it because the paper is cut. Freezer paper is a lot thinner than regular paper, so it can move. And I know my head's in the way, sorry. Your mark of 8.5. You just kind of mark it with a pencil here on this side. I just make 2 marks. And I also mark, because I can feel the edge, or the 2 marks work. And I just line up those 2 marks. And it's going to give me, I just take this and put it to 11.5. And remember, I made 2 marks on the paper. And actually, I'm going to do it this way because I don't want it off. And I'm going to make 1 more mark down here for 8.5. And now I have 3 marks on my paper. And my birdie. And all I have to do is, because I can see the bright red mark, just line up the top mark up here and this bottom mark. Line it right up against the ruler. Or straight edge, or whatever you're using. I have a metal one as well. And you take the pencil, pen, piece of chalk, whatever you're using, and see it's creating 2 red lines. Now all you have to do is go over here, and remember again, this is the side of the crease, so it's straight, or relatively straight. You can use it as your straight side. You measure from this red line going up or this direction. You put your ruler at 8.5 or 11.5. Yeah. Let me move my pencil. I just put it on the very end. Because usually rulers are straight. They're, unless you've made a nick in it for something. And I just measure up. .5 inches, because it starts with 1. I just measure up 11.5 inches. And again, it's not, it's not perfect science. This is just what I do. And I'm going to make a second mark. At 11.5 inch mark. And you don't have to do 2 papers at once. This is just what I do. Then I'm, I try not to waste. Oh, when am I closing the pin for? I still need it. And And then I just take my ruler. And measure across. From that point, so you have, come on, red. So you have pretty close. To see how close you are, and I think I'm way off because it doesn't look right. Yeah, well, I guess it does. You can take your regular piece of paper, which is a normal printer paper, and you stick it in there. And yes, I'm way off, way off. Well, good grief. And that's okay too. I'm just a little over on this side. And I don't know how come. Who knows? Yeah. 8.5 by 11. I don't know where I got 8.5 by 11.5. That's, yeah. Printer paper is generally 8.5 by 11, not 8.5 by 11.5. Oh boy. So we'll redo this again. And that's not a big deal. And I'm sure some of you caught it. Wait, it's paper's only 8.5 by 11. That's just showing you what not to do. Yeah. Okay. 8.5 by 11, which is on one side of your ruler. That's actually 7. And the other side will say 11. Oh, makes sense. 7, 11. Oh, that's interesting. Now we'll measure 8.5 by 11 this time. And this is a good area in which most people wonder, well, what do I do with all my old rotary cutters? This is an area that, again, you can either use a pair of scissors or an old blade from a rotary cutter. It makes perfect. Me, I tend to both cut it and then not cut it. But I'm going to use my old, I have 2 of these rotary cutters, just like this. One actually says paper. It's really hard to see, but it does say paper on it. A lot of people use those ones they call ergonomic, where the handle is sideways. Those ones hurt my hand. I can't do that. My hand must be straight, and the concept of putting my finger up to hold it, that actually hurts. So I found that this particular one, which is made by Fiskars, it fits my hand. And when you're dealing with even scissors, rotary cutters, any type of thing, you want to do what feels comfortable, more comfort to you. What works for one person may not work for another, and that's normal crafts. You can keep this, which I generally try to keep it, because you could always use it for something else or just throw it away. See if I can cut this and talk at the same time. I wonder if that's anything like chewing gum and walking. I don't know. Okay, now since you're working, I can do it. Yep, I can do it. And I'm talking to myself. I guess it's making a video. You're actually talking to yourself, so. But that's okay. I oftentimes talk to myself. And here, I gotta put my paper cutter back. I don't want to mistake it and use it on my fabric. And here I just take, whoa, wrong scissors. Whoa. I have these scissors, which are normally used for cutting hair. They work. I have several of these. But they work. They usually come in, you'll find them in hair clipping kits, but that's what they are. I like it because it has a little little hook here that I can hold. These are the only, I do have the other scissors, but they don't make just paper scissors that have a spring in them. So, and what I do with this is just slide it in the hole, if I can ever find the hole, and just kind of cut up that same paper. Papers don't have seams. The fold mark. So you end up with 2 sheets of 8.5 by 11, and ta-da! And put you back where you belong. Okay, so now you have 2 sheets of 8.5 by 11. Now the question is, well, how do you get this into a printer? How does it make? Because it is going to curl up. What I do then is you just take a regular 8.5 by 11 sheet. It can have something written on it, printed, who cares? It's not going to make any difference for what you're doing. But you do have to pay special attention. This side is the side that's you're printing on. This side is the sticky side, and you can feel it. It's shiny when the lights are on. I'm trying to make it shine, and my lights aren't the best in here. So when it goes into a printer, an inkjet anyway, the side that you're printing on must be down. In other words, this is the side you're going to want to print on, so you need to face it down so that when it comes up, it turns, and there you go. So what I do with it to make it a little stiffer, I just kind of match it up. Make sure I'm doing this right now. You're going to want to put the sticky side of the freezer paper next to the paper you're using to stabilize it. And then what I do, because it's sticky, I do use glue. Just throw a little tiny bit of this purple glue. Again, I like the purple glue instead of the white because I can see the purple on the paper. I just take it, plain paper, little purple in the corners, little bit. See, not much. I don't know if you can see that. You see, a little bitty purple in the corners. Put your lid on the glue. Stickies, remember, the slip side down. And if you don't do it quick enough, the purple glue does dry pretty fast. And you just kind of press it down. Super simple. And then just remember, because this is the paper I was using this is the printer paper. But you just got to remember, the paper, the regular paper, is going to be on the top when you put it in your printer. That's why sometimes if you use something, it's printed on it, then you know, oh, the printing goes on top. And then when it slides under, this is going to be on top, and it will print on there. After it's printed, you just can take it off. It doesn't stick. The glue doesn't stick to it. It just comes off real easy. Super easy. You might want to, but because it is still sticky, if this is a paper you're going to use for something, just kind of let the glue dry. Just set this aside. But then you have 2 of these sheets. And you can put them in a book or put them somewhere, lay them flat, because they will roll up, because they're used to being in a roll, so they're going to roll on you. So you can put them under a mat, under a book, just somewhere, anywhere. But this is where I wanted to show you. Here is the one that I printed earlier from the previous video on freezer paper. And how I use the freezer paper, I do not sew through the paper. If you don't sew through it, then you can use it multiple times over and over and over and over. And there's no tearing of the paper off. To me, that's, I don't know, that's just annoying to me. And it's great for those that enjoy it. There's nothing wrong with it. We each have our own preferences how we do paper piecing. And if that's the way you want to do yours, that's great. This is just the way I do it. And what you do here then is all these lines, because your fabric is going to be going onto the sticky side. Or it's not sticky, it's the slick side. But this is what I do. A lot of people take a ruler and do this. I particularly don't like the rulers because my eyes are not the greatest, so rulers tend to make it be off for me. So this is what I do. I first fold it to the back. I'm just folding my paper to the back. And sometimes it's not perfectly straight, or a lot of people get a tracing wheel and trace on those. I wouldn't recommend you use a tracing wheel on freezer paper because the freezer paper is a little thin, and I found that sometimes a tracing wheel ends up causing it to be super perforated and it just rips. So this is what I found. I fold it. See, here's the image. I folded this piece to the back. Then what I do is fold it forward, because you can see where it's creased on the back. You can see where it's creased. And you just fold it forward. Flip it over, fold it the other direction. This just helps the crease kind of relax. Do not take an iron to this. At this point, do not take an iron to this, because it will stick to anything you put on it. See, now you have this flap. But you do got to remember, this outside line where this picture is your 1/4 inch seam. That's what you do have to remember. So if you decide to cut this out, which I'm not going to, I guess I could just to show you, but typically you can cut this out and it's going to look like this. And I probably should, because this is probably confusing you. So let me go ahead and cut these sides off really quick. I don't want to confuse anybody any more than everybody's already confused. So let me go ahead and cut these off. But you want to make sure that you cut outside here. This is your seam allowance, your 1/4 inch seam allowance. See how close I get? Hopefully. Again, I don't like using my paper cut rotary cutter because it doesn't always, I can't always see correctly, so it ends up being a little off. And scissors do too, but that's okay. I'm not after perfection. I'm just after me. And you can always trim it up if you kind of miss it, because you can see the white. Put this little thing away here. And this process is the same whether you use paper or the freezer paper. There's a couple things that are different, and one is regular paper won't stick to fabric. You do have to use a little bit of glue on it. But the process is the same. Again, I don't sew through this paper. Once in a while you might accidentally sew through it, but if you're just real careful, it will come off. The stitches will come off real easy. but you're still not having to worry about sewing through the paper, then have to tear it all off, and then you got these little pieces everywhere. And again, it's not perfect, but that's okay. Throw these little papers away. I don't need them. And I keep an actual little garbage thing when it gets full. And here's what we're talking. These numbers on here. You'll see them. Let me go camera side. Oh, I hope you can see this. This middle one says number 1. That is the first piece you start with. But the same thing. You're going to fold all of these pieces. Nice. This says number, I think it's 13. You just fold it. I take one side. I never fold across that outside seam. I keep it on the inside. And it's not going to hurt you. If it does, you just fold across the outside seam. It won't hurt anything. I just try not to. And then I just flip it back. And then you've got a folded piece. Okay? This is the folded piece, and I keep going the wrong way. This is this folded piece. But you want the piece to be folded up when you're done. And I'm going to pause it and use the technical thing, and when I come back, it will be all folded. Okay, we have it all folded, as you can see. If you turn it on the back, this is what the back will look like, where you can see all the different folding pieces. And I have it upside down. Yeah, see, like I said, I can see, just not always so great. But this middle little square, there's a little square in there, and that actually is number 1. And that is this section you're going to first start with. On mine, I decided that I like this gold. And it was ironed. Let me get the side that's not ironed. It's gold. When I do paper piecing, what I found, and this is just me, I found that it is easier to cut a piece of fabric that is bigger. And when you go on the back, you can see the little tiny square in the center. So in this particular case, I'm going to cut a piece that's larger than the piece I need. Because if you don't, you're going to find it too short. So it looks like this is a big enough piece. And let me get my scissors, and that's going to chop it. So you have this little piece. I mean, you could probably, and this particular fabric, it isn't, I don't know if you can see it, but it's not, it's gold, but it has like these little silvery, I don't know, and it is quite thin. It is quite thin. It has like these gold, these little, it was part of a fat quarter bundle, and there was 12 of them in there. And all of them have these little, they're like gray, like a bunch of little tiny, super tiny marks. And they're white, gray, and I'm not sure they're actually marks. I think it might be just fabric, but it looks like there's little marks. Now here is where, when I was watching to learn how to do paper piecing, this is the part where I became extremely confused. And because we're taught when we learn to sew, right sides together, right sides together. It's in, everything you do, right sides together. This one particular spot, you need to forget that part, and it ends up being wrong sides together. This is the right side of this is the right side of your paper. This is the wrong side of your paper. Your fabric, this is the right side, this is the wrong side. In this particular case, you're going to put wrong sides together, and it goes just like that. This is where you can take your iron. Okay, this is when you just got to be really careful. This, instead of like me, and about fell off my chair. So you just take the iron to it. What I usually do is fold this back, because you do not want this sticky stuff getting on your iron. It will make it sticky. I just fold the piece back, hit this piece with your iron. If you're using regular paper, the concept is the same. Let's fold this back like this. The paper's really easy to fold. This is regular paper, because some people don't want to use the printer paper. So I'm just going to fold one section of this really quick so I can show you. The center. This is the section. This is the number 1. And it's the same thing. The piece you're cutting, you want it to be bigger than the piece you need. So let's cut another little piece. Too small. And you can always hold it up to the light. You can see through it. And again, it's the same concept. This is the right side. This is the wrong side. And you're going to be putting wrong side, which is the some fabrics don't make any difference. This particular one, there is a right side and a wrong side. And where I folded it, it's going to go right there. And when you're using regular paper, there's just a little bit something different you do, and it's not a big deal. Again, it's just a preference. I just don't like messing with the little purple glue all the time. And it's no big deal, because it comes right off. It doesn't stick. It doesn't stick to your fabric. But what you do is you have this little square in the center. I don't know if anybody can see it. The only part I folded it was this little square, so that you could see the little square. Here's the piece we cut. Remember, wrong side to wrong side. And you want to make sure it goes over on each side by at least 1/4 of an inch. And it does. So you could see through it. What you're going to do here, excuse me, sorry, you just take your little glue stick. Where that little square is, you just put glue only on that little square. You don't try not to get it on any other square or any other section. Just little tiny bit. It doesn't require a lot. Just a tiny bit. And you take your piece. Remember again, wrong side to the wrong side of the paper. And you just kind of stick it there. Make sure that it is, because you can hold it up to the light. I'll see if I can show you. And you can see where that spot is. And then just kind of press it down where the glue is. And that paper ain't coming, and that fabric ain't coming off. It's the same thing. It's the same. It works the same whether you're doing it with fabric, regular paper, or you're doing it with the printer paper. And that again is a preference. Me, I just like doing it with freezer paper. Okay, now then remember, our fabric is stuck to the back. And you can make sure it's right side up. Number 2 is here. So this is where you decide, so you've got 2, 6, 10, 3, 7, and 11. Those are your background pieces. So whatever color you want your, the stairs is here. The courtyard stairs is here. So these here is your background. I mean, I suppose you could choose to do them in whatever color. Me, for the paper piecing, I will show you. I decided, and you can actually see it on this one, I decided on this black. And it's not, I don't know if I can get you to see what I'm referring to. It's a black, and it looks denim-y, but it's actually not, and there's a string on it. But the whole 12 fat quarters were the same type of fabric, and it just looks like there's little white. It's actually really cool. I love it. It's just, it's all plain color. There's no designs on any of it. And again, we're going to do the same thing that we did with the yellow. You'll cut a piece off. Remember, this is your background. This is number 2. So the piece is actually only here, but you want to make it so the piece is here. So make it at least, I would not recommend it making it only 1/4 of an inch bigger. And that's just me. You can, if you're positive that when you sew it, if that's exactly what you're going to do. But me, I tend to cut it a little bit bigger. That allows for, that allows for a different way of doing something, I guess you'd call it. So I just cut a piece off of this black, really strange fabric. This again is your background. And you could probably get, no, I cannot. And what I did when I got my fat quarters is I just cut them all into 2 1/2 strips. That's why they're like that, because I'm actually working on 2 projects at the same time. That's a concept. And that's because everybody had all these UFOs. It's like, well, I need to create a UFO so that I have one. So again, see, yellow fabric, the gold fabric is still stuck to the back. It's not going anywhere. And it will come off. And you go in number 2. And again, now this is where you go back to thinking right sides together. Number 2 is here, which if you fold this back, this is square number 2. And you could actually write what squares those are on the back if you would like. But it's not necessary, but you can. But this is what you're going to do. If I can get this right. Come here. I just want to make sure I wasn't doing so it incorrectly. But here's your little 1 inch square. Here's the number 2. So you flip your paper over. And remember the fold you made. You're going to fold that. Where that 2 inch square is, you're going to fold it. Here's your 2 inch square right there. What you're going to do then is remember, this piece needs to be cut to 1/4 of an inch. So you're going to take it, you're going to flip this over. Make sure you don't move that fabric off of there. And it shouldn't move, but just don't grab a hold of it and move it. You're just going to put it down. Take whatever ruler you use to make your 1/4 of an inch. And what I do is this ruler, it has this line. It has a line on it. tells me where my quarter of an inch is, and I just, and then you just put that quarter of an inch exactly on the edge of the paper. And then anything above that you cut off. And that's good. And you just cut off this one. You almost have to be almost as precise as you can, but you're just going to cut off any extra. Thus you're leaving just a quarter of an inch sticking out, no more. So again, you're going to open the paper up, you're going to flip it. This is the number 2. This is the black piece. Whoa. You're going to fold the paper. This is where that black piece is. Okay? And this is where you go back to remembering right sides together. And you just match it up. See, it's matched up. Or you can actually, so most of the time, you can actually go a little over if you like. It's not going to hurt anything. Then you turn it over. Okay? And you have this little quarter of an inch scenario signed up. And I'm going to move this thing out of the way. And hopefully I don't make anybody dizzy with what I'm fixing to do, which is move my camera. Okay, so you have this quarter of an inch from the paper edge. This paper edge, this quarter of an inch, is where you would sew. Do not sew on the paper. And I say that, and let's hope I can actually not sew on the paper. Let me get the sewing machine moved here so I can reach it, and hopefully I can see what I'm doing. Yeah. So I just put it under there. What I do is find where my needle is, put my needle down right before that paper. And some people have a quarter of an inch on their thing. They can see it. Me, I have a red mark on my presser foot. I put that red mark on the edge of the paper. It's of the material, sorry. And then I know I'm not going to sew over the paper. And then I usually, sometimes I don't have a feeling in my foot. And I just kind of go slow. You don't have to go speeding fast. And I just sew it. And it came off of that thingy, but that's okay too. It's no big deal. It does that sometimes. I just was in a hurry and didn't sew it down real quick. I didn't put it down the way it should have been. And that's fine. There's no such thing as bad, good, or otherwise. But when you sew it, and I'll go over to the iron and stick it back on there. Your sew line for your string, your stitch line is here. And it goes this way. Sorry about that. So when you open it up, it looks like this. Okay? Now I'm going to take it to the iron and actually stick it down so it doesn't come back up like that. And that happens sometimes, you know how it is. It happens. And I'm just finger pressing it a little bit open and so that I can get the center of it. Put the iron on it. And there you go. And this is one thing about paper piecing. It looks, if I can get it, it looks crooked on there. But by the time you cut off, the top is not going to be crooked anymore. So there's our 1 and 2. And your 3 is done the same way. This is where your 3 is, and again, that's your background, which in my case would be black. And I would just fold it where the background goes. And you're going to cut it off at 1/4 of an inch here. Or, in my case, I use this as my guide, and I cut it off at 1/4 of an inch there. I hope this helps. It would be a really long video if I went through every step of that, but I will do a couple more pieces and then I can show you a little further what it looks like. And I hope this video was helpful. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.